Welcome to the Business Spotlight Podcast. My name is David Beeson. I'm your host for today's conversation. My guest today is Kyle Umlauf, the owner of Umlauf Engineers. We're going to be talking about his business, journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a peek of what it's really like to build and operate a business. Kyle, welcome to the show today. I would love for you to give us a little bit of background of who you are and tell us a little bit about your business as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Happy to be here. And a little bit about me. We are a structural engineering business located in Spokane, Washington. Been in business here about, just over 4 going on 5 years. About me personally, I grew up in Washington State, and my dad was a business owner, owned his own custom cabinet business for 30 plus years. And I just saw all of the freedoms, some struggles, but the overall positives of business ownership and how it worked for him over the years. And so as I went off to college and found what I like to do and got into the structural engineering world, I just always had the itch in the back of my mind and to do my own thing. And for me, it was around COVID time when we hit the work from home that I was like, oh man, I don't really mind working from home, and feel like I can do this. So I was a little bit crazy. It was 2021 when we launched off. I quit my job. My wife had quit her job. She was 6 months pregnant with our daughter, and we also had a pretty major renovation going on our house. And so yeah, no income. Let's just press go, and why not? A little bit of a pressure to force myself to be successful, sink or swim.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's a little bit about my background in the business. And for one of the big reasons for me of starting the business, my whys was to have that work-life balance and to be flexible. I mentioned my dad, and growing up, I was a hockey player, avid sports person, and it just didn't make sense to me when my friends' parents couldn't make a practice or couldn't make a game because dad was always there. And I wanted to have the flexibility to be there for my daughter and my family. And so far, so good. As you run the business, it's easy to think that you'll be super flexible. And when I first started, I was like, oh man, I'm going to be I'll have all this time and fit my schedule exactly how I want. I'll get to the gym every day and do this and do that. And yeah, it's funny how you still kind of work back into normal work business hours, and there's still a balance um, and just the normal workflow of how you have to get through things. And so for me, it's also important to keep some structure to keep myself balanced and centered on my whys for the business. And that's been
Yeah.
something constantly working on and getting better at all the time.
Yeah, no, my my dad had a similar thing to your dad, where my dad owned his own business, and I kind of had a similar background to you, where like I was in sports. I played football, I played basketball, I played golf, and my dad always was at all the practices. So I had a similar thing with you, where it was like I definitely have always wanted that type of balance as well. Me and my wife are expecting, so definitely want that for whenever my kids get older and being able to, go to baseball practice or anything for my son. So um, but generally speaking, what does your current ownership structure look like? Are you the sole founder and owner? Do you have outside investors, business partner?
Yeah, so sole founder and owner. We're set up. We're a PLLC, and then for tax purposes, set up as an S corp. And so, yeah, it's just right now myself as sole owner, and then I have one full-time engineering employee, and then we partner with a couple of 1099 draftsmen that own their own drafting companies, but they help us with the drafting part of my business and putting the drawings together. And ultimately, long term, would love to get the drafting in-house as well, but it's the sort of thing you have to have a little bit of growth on the engineering side to get a good engineer to drafter ratio. Usually it's somewhere between 3 or 5 engineers to one full-time draftsman. And so, it works well with the 1099, and I've found some good and quality folks. in the beginning, it was a little bit of a struggle to find the quality and be able to have the QA/QC processes and just a little bit harder to really hone in on or like push on them to have your quality standards when they're not in-house. And so definitely some learning lumps there for the business, but yeah, been able to get through that and get some good standards and quality control set up and always getting better as we go along too.
Awesome, awesome. So whenever you look at your role, how many hours each week do you spend working in your business, so the job itself, and how many on the business, so strategy planning, things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I probably spend admittedly more time working in the business than on the business than I should. It's something that I'm gearing towards of trying to hire and expand and get more quality people in with me working so I can focus more on working on the business than in the business. But I'd say currently I'm probably spending 80 to 85% of my time in the business and then the 15 to 20% of the time on the business of networking, growth planning, that sort of thing. One thing that I've been fortunate in the handful of years we've been in business is I've always been staying pretty busy. And so again, circling back to my whys and staying centered and grounded, it's something I wrestle with a lot is how much is enough and how big do I want to grow it? And say I want my business to work for me, not me to work for my business. And I don't want to get so large and grow so fast that I'm married to my job and stray from my whys.
Yeah. Um, so I'm curious, based on your experience, if I were to give you an extra 10 hours back each week, how would you invest those hours? Would it be in the business, personal life, family time?
Yeah, for me, I would probably, if I had 10 hours a week, would probably split them half on working on the business and then half for family time and personal relationships. Gearing into starting as a structural engineer, everybody's trying to get their projects started here early in the year to hit construction season. So gearing up for the busy season. And, you know, last year, I didn't do such a good job at separating work and life and having a good balance. And this year, trying to stay intentional about, you know, seeing that, okay, it's in my busy season. How am I going to manage that better? Because for me, when I get too busy on occasion, the relationships around me start to um, have problems or, yeah, just lack there. And so I think I would split it half and half to keep everything good on the home front and personal wise, but also it'd be great to have those extra hours to think and grow and to expand the business.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you look back on your journey so far, what has been the biggest roadblock or hurdle that you were challenged with that you had to overcome?
Yeah, I think my biggest hurdle that I am finding uh, to start, it was the drafting piece of it. So I worked prior to starting my own company. I worked at two firms that were middle to larger size, and they all had in-house drafters, and the engineers didn't do any of the drawings themselves. They just redlined. And so I had to teach myself a little bit of it, but also teamed with the third party folks. But it was some of the quality control was not there. And I have a handful of horror stories for that. But I've taught myself just enough to be dangerous on all of it and then found better partners to work with that. So that's been really awesome. And then another hurdle that I'm currently dealing with is just hiring and finding the right fit. Uh, finding where to advertise your jobs or as a currently we're a smaller company. It's myself, the one engineering employee, and then, the handful of 1099s who are remote, but being able to market myself and the company to find and attract good quality talent when there's so many other great firms out there that have bigger followings and better word of mouth too. I've found that hiring is a lot of word of mouth and say, oh, you should look into so and so, or on the flip side, that other folks referring to companies. And so that's currently probably my number one struggle that I'm working through, is trying to staff and be able to grow that way. Because right now we're uh, pleasantly busy, but feels like there's a lot more work out there that I could be winning and getting, but a little bit hesitant to take it on because of over promising and under delivering.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Well, kind of moving on to what makes your business so special. Who primarily does your business serve? Like if I was in the audience, how would I know I was a good fit for your product?
Yeah, yeah. So my product is structural engineers. We're providing professional engineering services. So we're designing a lot of buildings and of various sizes. We do residential, whether it's single family, multifamily, commercial. And in the commercial world, we're doing restaurants, or have been doing a lot of like gas station convenience stores, some office buildings. And so, really a good fit is just anybody who needs a building design would be a good fit, but something that we strive to set ourselves apart and has been um, helped me stay successful is just being super communicative and responsive. Um, I feel that just goes a long ways. And then also listening, there's a lot of engineering firms out there that let me backtrack. I guess, when we're designing a building, there's only so many ways to design buildings. And so there's a lot of similar thought processes and ways to do it, but staying listening to your client's needs and being willing to be flexible has really served us well and made it so that there's the other folks seek us out and have a good reputation because of it. It's so easy to be the older engineer who gets stuck in their ways and is unwilling to change because it's the way we've done it for the last 100 years. And I found that by being willing to explore new avenues of ways of building things, that it's been super helpful to me and valuable to my clients.
Awesome, awesome. So, how do you communicate what makes your business stand out against the competition?
Yeah, I think uh, communicating is just speaking directly to different clients and owners, and kind of just highlighting our specialties and how we stand out. Like I mentioned, really there's a lot of quality engineering firms out there, and there are only so many ways to build buildings. And so, it's a little bit different in that there's quality of drawings and that sort of thing. But one of my first bosses told me, he's like, Kyle, anybody can do the calculations. What's going to make you stand out is the relationships and your connection with the clients. And so I really have taken that to heart and focus in on that because if you had three or four different engineering firms providing the same documents for the same building, they're going to probably be pretty darn similar. But what sets us apart is the journey of how to get there, and there are subtle differences that can be value adds. And I just use that on winning. It's actually my biggest project to date, pretty large multifamily project where my value add on that one was I was a smaller team. And so you're going to be getting myself, the principal, senior engineer, versus sometimes with the bigger firms, you get some of the younger engineers, which is totally great. They're learning, they're quality people, but sometimes when the bigger firms get so busy, you have the younger folks who don't have the experience, and then the older folks who are QA, QC, and reviewing don't necessarily have the time to properly review and vet. So while I'm small and just a handful of people, and I can keep my hands in everything, I do push that as a value add, and then I do push the willingness to be creative. On the bigger projects like this one, if you have one minor detail that's a little bit more efficient, but then it gets copy and pasted, thousands of times on the building. It could be a quite significant add and or savings to the owner. For example, this isn't structural, but it was an architectural piece on a project that I've worked on. We're doing several townhomes, and previously a different development, that same ownership group went to, instead of hiring an architect, they hired designers who don't have quite the same skill set, and they definitely have their role in the building world, but on this particular project probably wasn't the best fit. And they didn't fully understand the building code. And the city officials said that they needed to put in fire sprinklers when really they didn't need to. And it ended up costing the owner 500,000 more dollars. And when he came to the architect that I work with, within 10 minutes, the architect looked at the building and said, "Oh, you don't need these because of X, Y, and Z." And so, by trying to save the 5,000 bucks on the difference between designer and architect fee, they ended up spending 500,000 more bucks. And so it's kind of a good anecdote and learning lesson and way to push, you know, hiring the right people and the right fit and being willing to be flexible for folks.
Yeah, yeah, no, makes sense. So kind of transitioning to marketing. I'm curious what successful businesses are doing. What percentage of your monthly sales typically goes back into your marketing budget?
Yeah, I am probably incorrect in this and maybe a little bit of a unicorn, but I spend nearly $0 on marketing. I'm almost all word of mouth. And I talked about those relationships. For me, early on, when I decided I was wanting to start my company, the last company I was working for had a list of the top 50 contractors and the top 50 architects in our region here in Spokane. And I took a little screenshot of that and started from the bottom and worked my way up. Up meaning they're the biggest contractors, and so being a one-man show at the time wasn't gonna to land the big boys. But I think I put in my 2 weeks notice on a Thursday, and by Friday afternoon, I had my first signed contract from just a cold email. And it was, I went to the architect's website, looked through some of their projects, and found that they had done a project pretty close to my house. And cold email saying, "Hey, this is a really cool project. I'm just starting my own company. Would love to work with you." And the cold emails have worked quite well for me, surprisingly. I've done that a couple times, and
Awesome.
once you get in and do quality work, then the word of mouth is spread. And so I've done that a couple different times with architects that, have kind of it worked for one or two, and then once I did a good job for them, they've chatted with their, the contractors they work with and other architects, and it's spread quite a lot. And so for me, uh, I've stayed plenty busy without having to spend the marketing dollars. And so I haven't really pushed the marketing dollars, but I do, even when I am busy like I am currently, I'll try to reach out to new architect clients and have lunch or coffee and stay current, even if we're not working together, just to be able to eventually turn on those additional taps of workflow as well.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Do you have any aspirations to get into anything like digital marketing or anything like that to kind of grow the business in that type of route or no?
Yeah, possibly a little bit. It's funny you asked that. I just this week started thinking about branding, and I was like, man, as an engineer, I'm not. I have different creativities, but like the marketing sort of creativity is not my forte. But I've reached out to some folks of things like rethinking the logo and how to have a branding strategy of where early on, it wasn't where I wanted to spend my money getting the business off the ground. But now that we are stable and about, 4 or 5 years in, uh, thinking about future growth and getting the foundation set up still fairly early in the company's life cycle, like that's something that I've been trying to do is set up the systems and different things and put them in place early before I need them. So when I grow and need them, they're already there, and instead of trying to do them on the fly when it's a little bit too late. And
Yeah,
so,
no, definitely.
yeah, I don't know exactly what the routes would be with the digital marketing. I think for me, probably being more active on either a LinkedIn or maybe an Instagram or something. But definitely have more research to figure out where to be more active in that regard and how to grow a following.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, my background is in digital marketing, so that's why I always like to ask because I went to school for it and learned a lot through uh learned a lot for through school and work and yeah, there's a lot of different ways to grow in digital, and I always tell every business owner to do some research, but I definitely think that it's worth it in the long run.
Mhm.
Um, so what approach do you currently have to tracking your leads? Do y'all have a CRM that you prefer, or is it mostly just um like a spreadsheet or something like that?
Yeah, so right now we have a project management software. It's called BQE Core, and it tracks all our projects, and we can project out our workload for forecasting it for the months and asset allocation. And it keeps track of it, kind of loosely acts as a CRM a little bit as well. But those are exactly the sort of things that trying to build in that probably admittedly could be doing a better job and are trying to figure out those tools to use them to their full capacity now so I can use them when we grow and it becomes harder to do and just on the back of a napkin or a spreadsheet or something, trying to get my good habits now and use the tools that we have versus getting away with doing nothing.
Yeah. Um, so kind of switching over to team, how would you describe your leadership style in business? I know you said you had a sports background, so has that impacted your leadership style?
Yeah, I think it probably has a little bit. I'm definitely about team first and the individual needs of an employee. My philosophy is that um, you work to live, not live to work, and so I really try to keep the work-life balance for my team and treat the individuals, my employees, right and keep them happy because ultimately the employees are what helps run the company, right, and really drives me. And my philosophy is that if you're treating people right, uh, that you will have natural growth and success. And so, with that, I give my team a lot of responsibilities and really let them run with things and just try to be there to support as needed. I try to give it to them and let them go and get the heck out of the way there to let them do their professional duties and I try to always growing in that aspect too of finding the right mix of being I don't want to say present, but being involved enough to make sure that it doesn't. I don't want them to feel like I'm just absent and they can't talk to me. But on the flip side, I don't want to be the overbearing boss who you know micromanages everything either. So I try to have that right mix and balance, and feel like I try to be very encouraging and mentorship is big to me. So I try to be teaching and have everybody learning versus taking it over and just quote fixing things on the fly. And so yeah, I would say that would be kind of the management style that I've been taking on and has been successful to me to this point.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I know that you mentioned that you have one full-time employee and that you work with a lot of contractors. Is there any room for growth in 2026? Are you guys trying to expand and grow the team at all?
Yeah, we have a couple ads out to be hiring a full-time engineer as well and working on finding that right fit. And yeah, I think that's been one of my struggles of figuring out where the folks are of like where to be advertising and how to be networking and stuff to attract the talent. Yeah, I think we have at least room for one, if not possibly two more full-time engineers if we can find that right fit. And we did have two full-time employees last year. Got back down to the one, had one leave us, and yeah, I think there is a definite need for growth. We have a pretty strong backlog and several what I would consider untapped relationships that could be more flows for more work, but currently not pressing on those too hard. We'll do, a handful every so often with them to keep the relationship going, but I don't, yeah, I don't really push them as hard as some of my main clients. Just don't want to don't want them to give me a big one and then be behind and under deliver when we're just nurturing the relationship and starting it out. Want to make sure that we're giving good quality service to everybody.
Yeah, no, yeah, I totally get that. So before we wrap up, I do have a couple rapid fire questions for you if you're ready.
Sure.
What is the key to success for you?
Yeah, the key to success for me is just uh, open communication and relationship building. I think so much of my success early on was just being responsive in a world that was unresponsive and really listening and caring about my both my employees and my clients. That I think that's been a big key to my success early on.
Awesome. What is your one piece of advice to other business owners?
I think my one piece of advice for other business owners that I would have uh, would be to set your personal core values and stay true to those and make sure that you're running your decisions through your core values. I think it's so easy to get busy or to, if you're having success, it's so easy to want to have exponential growth and, more and more and more when really if you stray from your whys and staying grounded you could have more money, you can have more success on paper, but it starts eating at the other aspects of your life that make you who you are, and you end up enjoying it less. And so just staying grounded and centered and being able to enjoy the journey has been really important to me, and something that I try to focus on and have various degrees of successes in different business seasons.
Awesome. What is a good podcast or book that you're reading or listening to right now?
Yeah, let's see. Don't listen to too many podcasts, but the best book that I have read recently uh, was again about kind of like what I just talked about in the core values and centering yourself ish. But it was called Die with Zero, and it was talking about money is a unit of energy, and you can slave away working like crazy and have infinite money, but if you're not willing to spend it or use it for enjoyment, then really what's the purpose? And that was a transformational book for me of just kind of a mind shift for me to have a better balance in life altogether.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. I'm definitely gonna check that out. You said die with zero?
Guy with Zero. It has the fancy, catchy title, but it isn't just a hey, spend your money willy-nilly and blow it all. It has
Yeah.
several good pointers and different ways of thinking about several different aspects of money and life. So yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. So this is kind of a fun question that I always like to ask. If you had a little bit of magic dust and you could choose one spot to sprinkle it in your business and everything would be perfect, where would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a great question. Every magic dust. I think for me it would be probably a little bit because I'm going through it right now, but the ability to attract the right people. Because for me, you can always be honing in on systems and working and improving those, but the important part is getting the people and the right fits for your team. I've had a handful of folks who were super qualified and really great, but just weren't quite the right fit for me. And it wasn't anything against me or them or our company or them. It just for various reasons wasn't the right fit, and it can be painful when you don't have the right fit. And so if I had the ability to just sprinkle magic dust and get the right people on the bus to start, uh, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. Well, before we get to the final question of the day, would you like to share with our audience how they can follow you, learn more, contact you guys?
Yeah, so we're Umlauf Engineers. Website is umlaufengineers.com. And then we also have an Instagram at Umlauf Engineers. And then we're on LinkedIn as well. And so could find us on any of those.
Cool, awesome. Well, we've come to the final question of the day, and that is what is most inspiring to you today?
Yeah, I think what's most inspiring to me today, let's see. I think it's just been the power. I feel like I've been beating this drum a lot, and I apologize for being repetitive, but it's just the power of building relationships with other people. And I really enjoy that. And that was a big part of my why of creating the company was to be able to, rub shoulders with other people and chat and explore. And it's just been a lot of fun and inspiring to be able to run across people of just all different ventures and ways of life in this business. And, it's been a lot of fun and inspiring to see ways that people are doing things differently and kind of learning from other folks, even if it's not industry specific. It's kind of been fun to see how, similar business principles can be applied to my business from many other business types. And it's been an awesome ride of networking and meeting new people and yeah, growing with that.
Yeah, yeah, no, makes a lot of sense. Well, this was a great conversation, and I really enjoyed getting to hear your story. So thank you so much for sharing, Kyle. Also, I just encourage all of you watching to share to save this show and come back and watch it again because Kyle really did have some great insights for business. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so we get notifications every time a new conversation drops, just like this one. Thank you to everyone who joined us today, and a special thanks to you, Kyle, for being with us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, and I will see you all in the next episode.